Alrighty, hi folks, welcome back to How to CAD Almost Anything MIT IAP 2026. Today we are in session 3 and I'm super excited to be here today because as you can already see from the front slide right here, we'll be CADing two very interesting objects. We'll be doing the tambourine and the Taipei 101. These two look somewhat repetitive, they look simple perhaps at first glance, but they employ a variety of skills which I think will be super useful for you to know for more advanced projects that we'll be doing throughout this class. In particular, as you can see with the tambourine and the Taipei 101, they're pretty symmetrical and repetitive. And that's the whole point because we'll be using circular patterns, we'll be using mirroring, we'll be using a lot of planes. So let's go ahead and get started. So today's agenda is really going over precisely those commands that I just mentioned and going through these projects. Last time we worked on the MIT Intramurals banner and then on the sports keychain. I think those were pretty simple, bringing in pictures. Today we won't really be using pictures, we'll be using more free. And we'll be just looking at pictures and then perhaps trying to replicate it as much as we can with our own creativity. And then on session 2.5, we integrated the topics from session 1 and session 2 to make pretty complex things like the Game Boy and the Pokemon card. So I think those two were quite interesting and they put into practice the things that we've been learning in a lot more depth than we've done with the projects on session 1 and session 2. Now today, this is what we have in stock, the tambourine and the Taipei 101. So let's go to Inventor right now and let's start. Alrighty, so here we are on Inventor. So I'm gonna go here to new part. So let's start creating some stuff. And I have some pictures of what we want to do here. So we'll start right now with the tambourine. And really, perhaps what I'll do is that as we go designing this thing, I'll start to illustrate some of the different commands that we'll be using. Because for instance, you look at this thing and you ask yourself, well, how would you design this? Let's perhaps take a step backwards before we jump straight into the design. So maybe with the things that we've learned, what we could do is start by selecting one of the planes, say the top plane. You draw a circle and then maybe you do an offset entities and you draw you draw another circle, right? That is just offset by some amount. And then you extrude that upwards and that gives you the rim, like say the edge of this tambourine. And then perhaps we can create a plane somewhere around here and then we can do an extrusion, an extrude cut of a slot because that's the area right there. Then we can add a little pin and then we can do this area right here and then do a circular pattern for both the cymbals and those pins right there. So I think we're gonna really put into practice all of the skills. I don't think there's any that will be remaining. Maybe mirroring we might use more with the Taipei. Here we'll be using a lot of circular patterns and revolve. So let's do that here. So first things first, I'll go here to tools, document settings, and I'm gonna change my units to be millimeters and then grams, even though we haven't quite used mass yet to measure the weight of our body, because we haven't assigned material properties to our things. But now we go here to sketch, and I'll select one of the planes. So let's start by doing our strategy. So I'll draw a circle right here in the middle, and I click escape. Let's give this some dimension. Let's say, obviously that's too small. We can say 400 as an example, right? So now what we can do is go here to offset. And now we have another circle that is concentric with this one. And I'm gonna define that distance to be 10. So that's gonna be, say, the edge. Maybe 10 is too thin. What about 15? Okay, that's good. And then we'll go here to 3D model, extrude, and I'm gonna extrude this stuff by let's say 50. Okay, that is still too small, so perhaps what I'll do is I'll go here to edit feature and I'll make that really 70. I think that's better. Okay, good. One thing to notice from here is that yes, that's gonna be like that area, and then you have that part in here. So I think that's gonna be fun. Okay, so now let's start by doing the first part in here, which is the slotted cuts. So how would you do that? Well, I will go here to sketch, and actually before drawing anything, you see I'll go here to origin. That way I can see our original planes. and I'll choose the XY plane, that one right there, and I'm gonna draw a line that goes, actually I'll make it a construction line, so I'll click in that little icon over there, that goes all the way like that, and then I'll go here to D, and I'll dimension that to be 400 as an example. I'll say, okay. So why did we do that line, which you can see right there? Well, because now we go here to 3D model, and I want to create a plane. You can create a number of things. You could also create an axis, and I can show you, axis is actually relatively simple, but with planes, there's multiple ways you could do it. For instance, I could have said, I wanted to do an offset plane. So for instance, if I had clicked this one, I could have said, all right, I want to make it offset from the XY plane. So you see, I can say, all right, I want it to be there. No, but the one that I like the most is this one, which is called, let me just go again to, it's called normal to curve at a point, and it's right there. So you see how it creates a plane that is in that area right there. Good. So I believe that should be fine. Yes. So now I could actually, did it create a plane? There we go. Excellent. Now we have work plane number one. So it's the same thing. It just gives you a little bit of a degree of precision, because then I can go back to that sketch, change that dimension to be 500, and that's gonna change as well. I could have also changed the angle as well of this line, and that plane, because it's defined by a point and a curve that is normal to that point, it will always stay that way. So it's a pretty nice way of doing this. This curve could have been inclined. You'll see that we'll be using this fairly often, perhaps maybe with the symbols too. But this is a pretty easy way of introducing this. Well, now what I'll do is I'll go here to sketch, and I'll do a sketch on that plane, which is exactly in the front. And what we can do is go here to project geometry, and I can project, for instance, that line and that line. So perhaps this is another easy way to visualize what project geometry does. I'm going to convert this to construction geometry. Essentially, you've taken a circumference, and I'm trying to project that circumference into a plane that is parallel to it. So that's why that circle looks like a straight line in here. And why did I do this? Because now the area between these two lines tells us, all right, where are we with respect to, say, this figure that we have in front of us. That way we know that we have to draw something in the middle. So now what I can do is grab a point. I'm gonna draw a line in here. Good. And then I'm gonna draw a few more lines that are gonna represent, for instance, where our slot is gonna be. I'll click on this line, control that line, I'll make these equal, and then I'll say, all right, I want that to be 60. And then we go to rectangle, this one, the center to center slot. Now I want to make it a solid slot. There we go. And boom, we can add that figure right there. But it's still black because there's one dimension remaining to be defined, which is that one. We'll make that 25. Actually, that might be too little. I'll go. So we said that 70. Yeah, so I'll think 30. It's okay. So what can we do? I'm gonna go here to extrude, and I'm gonna do an extruded cut that will go maybe, let's say, 300. There we go. So you see how it's doing a cut that goes all the way like that. I'll say, okay. I could have also said up to that face, but because I'm gonna do a revolve, it's not gonna look that well. Okay, so we got that piece. Maybe it's too wide, but we'll see in a moment. But now another thing that I can do is I'll go here to sketch, and now I'm gonna select that plane right here. So you see how this geometry very easily can become pretty complex. And I'm gonna draw a line that's gonna go right here. You know, I always like drawing at least a line that traverses that in, actually not that line. Let me see, I want, where is the half? There we go. Okay. So that's roughly the middle. And then I can draw a solid circle. But that's gonna represent with the tambourine the like a little bar where our symbols are gonna go. So maybe I'll go here, I'll click on D, I'll make that 6. So then we go here to sketch, extrude, and I can say, all right, give it literally 30 because that's the height that we established earlier. So we have that little area right there. Good. So now what we can do is design our symbols. So I have another picture. These things are the symbols in there. Normally, if you are into marching band, you would know that symbols are much bigger than what you see in here. They're much bigger versions of this stuff. You see the shape of these things is not trivial because it's like flat and then it's curved. And I think there's a pretty neat way that I've been avoiding in the previous sessions on how to do this. So a way to do this is to go through the following approach. So I'm gonna actually let me see what's the best way to create. Okay, so we have say this plane. So I'm gonna do a sketch on this plane which cuts that stuff in half as you see. So I'll go here to sketch. So now I know I'm in that plane and I'm gonna project geometry that. So you'll see in a moment what's gonna happen when actually I'm gonna project those two lines. So those are the two, say like circumferences. They just appear as two straight lines. And the reason why I want them is just because I want those as reference really. So now I click in here. Very good. Actually, I will use mirroring in just a second. So that tells us roughly where the half of this stuff is. So I want to design the profile of this symbol. For instance, I can go, say, roughly from here. I can go straight. It doesn't matter because, oh, actually, there we go. So let's start by drawing a line that goes like that. Maybe I can click on D on that, and I can guarantee that that's perpendicular just to make sure. And suppose I want my symbol at least, actually I could have done this, a construction line, but suppose I want the symbol to be 40 in diameter, in radius. We can change this dimension, it doesn't matter. Maybe actually that might be, actually we can look at a picture of this stuff. Maybe a little bit more. We can say 45, good. But I will make that construction, excellent. And then what I want to define is distance, say between, there we go. So that's roughly half. And I want that to be, say, 2 millimeters. That's okay. Good. So I'm gonna draw a line that goes like that. Good. And then maybe an arch that goes. Yeah, so like the symbols are pretty simple. Maybe there is a little bit of curvature. If I'm looking at these in here, I think I know how to. It's like a little bit of. It's just slightly rounded towards the end. I'll figure that out in a second. In fact, maybe this is time. This is the time to get creative with things. And I want to draw something that looks roughly like that. In fact, I'm gonna now draw a line that goes like that. But that one, I really want to make it a construction line. And the only reason I'm drawing that one is so that that line and that line can be tangent. There we go. That's it. Nothing too fancy. And then I will define this height to be maybe 5. There we go. And maybe the distance between those 2 points to be 18. Good. Okay. I like this, the way it's looking so far. And maybe I will make, there we go. This, oh, I should click in that point. I'll click on that point. I'll make that 25. And I'll make the round edge in just a second. But what we can do is a little offset of this thing. Just slightly like that. In fact, this doesn't need to be too thick. Maybe 0.5 will do the trick. And what I'm gonna try to draw is that little rounded corner. Again, this is where I take my creative freedom on how we do this sort of stuff. Um, I'm just thinking, what if actually, yeah, that's the way I should have done it. So, yes, that's a construction. I just make a circle that goes like that. Good. So that's how I want it. And I'm gonna make those two, let's see, coincident. There we go. I don't think it matters. There we go. And that's fine. So I can just complete with the arch. You can say, all right, I want you to be like that. Oh, I should have done that with, there we go. Just like that. And now I can go here to our friend trim, and I can trim that edge. There we go. Maybe that circle looks a little big, which means I should make that, say, 27. Let's see what happens. Let's see, 26. Oh, what I really actually wanted was that and that to be tangent. Let me see if I can change that. Uh, let's see if I can. Wait, delete coincident constraints. Nah, it's fine. I'll just leave it. I think that it's decent enough, as one would say. Maybe I'm just curious to see. Okay, it's not bad. I think that's decent. But the key point in here, once you're happy with what you've drawn, is to make sure that that's oh, maybe did I make that line a construction? There we go. Good. So that's close, which means that now I should be able to rotate this geometry if I wanted to. And so this is a good point to say, okay, I'm gonna finish this sketch. And then maybe for now, I will leave it. I could have made a little gap in there, which is probably the appropriate way of doing this. Um, so because this is taking a different piece, but I'll make it connected because nobody's gonna quite see this stuff. It doesn't matter. But now we go back to 3D model. This is a good point to create an axis, and I'm gonna create an axis that goes like that. So you see how that it created that little one in there, which is an axis that just is concentric with that little cylinder. So why did we do this? Because then I go here to revolve, and for profiles, I will select, I mean, it already automatically selected that one. And then for axes, I will, oh, hold on, let me go revolve. Very good. Select axis will work. There we go. Is it letting me? Hmm. Um, there we go. So profiles that's selected. Then for here, okay, it seems that. There we go. I'm not sure why I was giving some mistakes in there, but okay. So now you can start to see part of the symbol right there. Okay, looks pretty decent-ish so far. But now we want another one, right? That's gonna be right on top. So the way to do that is by creating yet another plane. So I'll create a plane that if I click on that face and I click on that face, it's a plane that cuts this stuff in half. And I'll say, okay, good. Because then we go here to this little icon that's mirroring. And I'll say, all right, I want to mirror that. And then the mirror plane is going to be this one. So you see how it appears right on top. So now we have our two little symbols right there. So I mean, this looks kind of pretty. In fact, like the overall size is mostly appropriate. Maybe what I could do is first I'm gonna hide this stuff because I don't want it. There we go. I don't want it yet. That sketch. Yeah, repeat this. Yeah, just hide everything. There we go. Sketch two. Visibility, get rid of it. I might make that symbol a little bit bigger. So we go to sketch 5 and I edit that sketch, that should be possible. And in fact, because this is the importance of fully defining stuff, it means that things will just scale appropriately. So I could have done 50 as an example. Maybe here I could make that 23. And I'll say finish. Yeah, I think it was a slight error when we were just um there we go. I think I see. Well, that line has to always be 0.5. I'll say finish. Uh, Let me see what's going on. Let me just Control Z everything for a second. Let me just go here to sketch, edit. There we go. Wondering. Oh, I see. Maybe if I added another line in now. I'll just define it there just so that that is neatly there. Okay. Oh, but I see. But oh, I see. That should be coincident like that. Good. Yeah, so it's just like increasing slightly the symbol size. I think that's enough clearance for the bells in there. In fact, maybe I could increase a little bit more the spacing between them. You see that if we go back to this picture, I think they're slightly more spaced out. So what we can do is also go back. This is a lot of trial and error. It's just really making sure, see, all right, what works and what doesn't. And so that too can really be, I don't know. Let's make that 4. There we go. Okay. I think it looks kind of pretty. Okay, so now it's time to do the magic step. So we'll create another axis that's gonna be just right there. So you see how to create a yellow line. So then we'll go here to circular pattern. So in terms of features that I want to do is pretty much everything but will select features. We'll do extrusion 2, extrusion 3, revolution 1, and the mirror. And then for direction, well, I could also select this area right here. And let's see whether I can fit 8 of them. It's a little bit too much, but I think it will be possible if I shorten a little bit the first extrusion. Okay, actually that doesn't look bad at all. Definitely interesting. Let's go back here to this original sketch. What if we make that uh, 52? Okay, so this doesn't look bad at all. Okay, we got our nice symbol in here with all of the spacing. So now it's time to add the tambourine part, at least the cover on top, and then of those circles. So maybe let's first save this very quickly. That way, tambourine. One thing I'll mention right now, which might or might not be a problem later, is that if, actually, let me just delete this stuff for a second. So suppose I go here to extrusion one, and then we go to properties, and we want to find, say, a wood. Yeah, actually, that walnut didn't look too bad. So say we do walnut. How would that? Actually, maybe not. I want something lighter. So let's find maybe. Okay, actually, cherry is the one that we wanted. And then the same thing for extrusion two. Go here to properties, and I'll go over to cherry. It takes a minute to find a good one. And then here, obviously, our symbols and the mirror. There we go. These are gonna be chrome. Actually, they're gonna be brush. Let's see, B is in brush. There we go. Okay. And then what we're gonna add in here is, maybe I'll go here to extrusion free. I go over to properties, and I'm gonna make this one chrome. So let's see, yeah, chrome polished. Okay. Okay, so now the question what we wanna find out right now is, if I were to do a circular pattern of pretty much everything, so 3, 4, like that, we select here. Do the colors replicate in the same way that we've done them before? If not, we'll have to do it manually. And well, you got the answer right there. Perhaps the only thing I could say is you could do a circular pattern of individual items that you know will have a similar color. For instance, I'm gonna edit that feature, and I'll say, well, I want a circular pattern just of extrusion 2. Now I'm gonna do another circular pattern of extrusion 3. We want that to be 8. And now I'm gonna do another circular pattern of revolution 1, mirror 1, right here, 8. So I can change the colors of each one of these circular. Just a little hack of something that you should be aware of. So we got at least the body of the tambourine. So let's add a few more details. So I'm gonna go here to that face, and I can do a quick offset. Let's see. Actually, I should first project entities, the entirety of that face. And then I can offset that by a tiny amount. So really it's adding those details right there, because the reality is that yes, the tambourine will continue upwards for a little bit more. That's completely fine. But those details are only going to be visible by us. So that line right there, I'm gonna make that a construction, and I'll say that I want that thickness to be 2, just barely noticeable. And I'm gonna extrude that area by, that's too much, maybe 20. That's good. So now that we've got this, so you see at least the interior side looks exactly like we would want it to be. So now I'm gonna do another sketch on this face, where what I want to extrude is I'm gonna do a project geometry of that face, and then I'm gonna extrude that in the opposite direction by 2 millimeters, which is the thickness that we gave. Okay, so now we got the face of this stuff. In the interior, it looks exactly like we wanted to do. Okay, so maybe let's color this stuff in the same way that we should. That way we can save some time later. So let's find our friend Cherry. Good. With that one, that was properties. I mean, that was chrome. Chrome polished. There we go. And that one, properties. That was brass. Let's find it. Brass satin. Which I think now you see all of the colors in there. And then maybe for extrusion 4 and extrusion 5, we can make these two be, well, I liked nickel in the color of, this should technically be white. Maybe let's see, foil, fine, fine cream. What does this color look like? Nah, I mean, it's, you just have to play around with different textures, obviously, to get something that looks like you would like it to look. Let's see, smooth ash. Actually, this is not too bad. I think that's fine. And then we're gonna fill it some of this stuff too. This is not the end, obviously. But let's add these last details, which is those little circles. So how would you do that? Well, it's a very simple thing to do, because I'm gonna go back to, say, that original sketch. I'll do a sketch in that face in there, and all I want to project is that little line. So I know that is, the line where we're gonna work from. I'm gonna make that a construction geometry for now. And what I would want to draw in here really is a little circle that's gonna, well, there's multiple ways to do this, because the one that I was thinking about was one where I draw a little semicircle like this. So I can say, all right, I want the distance, say, from here to there to be 3. I want the distance from here to there to be also 3. There, oh, that was, there we go. One moment. Hopefully that's not too small. I think that should be fine. And maybe, yeah, let's make that an, actually, I liked it at 7. And I'm gonna do a line that's gonna go right there, boom. And now we go here to model, revolve. And for the axis, we're gonna select, there we go, that line. I'll say, okay. So we got our little circle right there, boom. Just making sure that it doesn't traverse the border in that side. Very nice. So now the last step in here is to do a circular pattern. So I'll select, well, I'll select this feature. Oh, let me go back here, revolution 2, and then direction in here. But now I can say that I want, say, 24 of these. So that's it. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then maybe last but not least, I'm gonna make these two also chrome. So properties, chrome, where are you? polished. I'll say, okay, terrific. Okay, so now we got all of these different figures in here. So perhaps I'll go here to chamfer and I'll just add just like some final details on this design. So for instance, I can say, right, that I want that and that. I think that's too much. So I'll say 1, for instance, say, okay. Then I'll obviously color that in a second. The same thing with the borders down there. And we could do it with, let me see. Well, at least here on the visual ones. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'll say, okay. So for chamfer 3 and 2, we are gonna make these cherry. So let's go find that right here. I'll say, okay. And then for chamfer 1, edit properties, we are gonna make that be, I think it was ash, smooth. Yes, smooth ash. Okay. Very good. And maybe let's go here to that sketch and let's change the visibility. Excellent. Okay, so this is very easily how you would make a tambourine. So we actually didn't employ everything. We used mirroring to mirror, say, one of the symbols to the other side. We used revolve twice for these little balls and the symbol design itself. We used planes to create planes to make that cut from one side. And we've used plenty of circular patterns to just try to, very easily replicate the same design all around the figure. And you'll see that when we design the Taipei 101, it's gonna be much interesting because we're gonna be leveraging this more, but on steroids, because the level of detail is a lot greater. So stay tuned for that in just a second. So now we're gonna make the Taipei 101. And as usual, the best thing that we can do before we even do any sort of CAD is look at pictures. So I have in here prepared a couple of pictures that I found in Google Chrome. And this is essentially all that we're gonna use right now to make a 3D model of this thing. By the way, the level of fidelity that we're gonna add is really up to us. Now we obviously wanna make a CAD object that looks vaguely like this. And there's gonna be obviously a good amount of details with that. But just as a little mistake that we always tend to do, I always tend to do, is that I want to add every single detail that is there to make it as realistic as possible. And the rate of return on that turns to be minimal at some point once you've reached something that is already recognizable. So we'll make our own approximation of the Taipei 101. And you'll see what I mean as we go making this model. But I got this picture, then another one in here, here to more or less see especially this pattern right there, and how we're going to replicate that with that little detail in there. And that, what appears to be like a coin. It's super interesting. Then this beautiful picture, I think it shows it nicely all the way, what this is supposed to be looking like from the side view. Then something that, well, another nice side view here, a little more zoomed in with some of the details over here. Again, we'll try to add as many of these things as we see right here. But then something I wanted to point out is this picture right here, because if you are a follower of this channel, you'll know that we've done, by session 3, which is where we are right now, we always try to do something that has a pattern, that has symmetry. And in the case of the Taipei 101, essentially our strategy will be to make one of these blocks. In fact, we'll start by making one of these blocks, just one of the sides to be precise. Then we'll replicate that side by 4, and then we're gonna make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're gonna multiply that by 8. The fact that actually that's 8 floors, even though I do not know the lore precisely, but I think the fact that it's 8 is not a coincidence, because it's a likely number. It tends to be a likely number in Asian cultures. I found this picture online, which I thought was very cute, because this is the Iron Pagoda. That's what I was saying. If you were a follower of the channel, you perhaps you would know right away what I want to say, is because this is something, a model of something that we wanted to do when we were teaching this class using Siemens NX in session 3. So that's what we did, something that looked vaguely like this. And did today is the Type A 101, which is basically, if you have a lot of imagination, a modern version of a pagoda. If I'm not mistaken, that might be 16 floors or twice as many as that. I don't want to count that now, but I'm just trying to remember from when we did this model exactly a year ago from today. So yeah, so let's get started with all of this stuff. So I'm gonna go here to Inventor. Oh, there we go. And I'm gonna go here to New Part. We're gonna learn, I'm gonna explain a couple of things. Particular, go here to Sketch. And we'll choose X-Y Spline, one of these ones as usual. And I'm gonna first draw a, so we're gonna draw an outline. And as you can see from here, it's kind of a rectangle. Say if I wanted to draw like a profile, right? I did a cut of one of these floors. Maybe let's look at it from this floor. It's kind of like a square, and then it has like a little mark in there. So it's like a little uh, staircase on the edge. What do I mean by that? Well, let me draw it for you. Actually, let me go here to tools, document settings. We are gonna change that to classic millimeter and grams. There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna go here to sketch line. There we go. So let's draw. I'm gonna start drawing. Actually, I'm gonna first draw a rectangle. So the rectangle, and I'll make this a construction one because this right here is gonna define the area where we'll work. So we'll work off from here, and I'll make that say 80. I just make it 100. That way it's nice and rounded numbers. Doesn't matter because dimensions really at the end of the day for these models are meaningless because we can always use a scale command and scale all of this stuff. But for instance, I can draw one line like that and then draw like a little staircase of sorts and then come down like that. Boom. Excellent. And then we'll just do like this. I think that's how the edge looks like. And then I'm gonna use one command. Obviously, there's a more efficient way of just drawing all of these lines, but I like doing here the old-fashioned way where I just draw them all manually. But then I can just go there to the constraints and make them all equal. There we go. Well, it's not fully complete, so I need to connect them all like that. I do the same thing here. The same thing here. And one more line right there. So these really are profiles. So now I'm gonna go here to control 1, 2, 3, 4, equal. Oh, let me see. I make all of these equal in here. And we're all constrain the sketch. Well, at least I think that should work. So I have to always, there we go, equal. Excellent, very good. And then actually I could select all 4 of these, make them equal. Let me see if I can select these 2. Excellent, there we go. I have to constrain them little by little. So that and that will make that equal. Okay, that looks reasonable. Let's see. Just like that. And we have that left. technically, I could say, all right, I want that to be 15. There you go. Okay, so this looks whole blue, and blue indicates that everything is fully defined. So that's where we're standing right now. So here's the 3D model. This is our building block, as we said. So lots of things really that we can do to make this look pretty and whatnot. But we'll start now with a actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna first extrude this by 5, actually by 2. And we're gonna make this like the little base. So here's where we start to take a little bit of creative freedom. We will make our own version of the Taipei 101. Because making it, I think that's a lot more fun than making the real one, in my opinion. Because if I wanted to make the real one, this video wouldn't end at all. So this is what if they had asked me to make this thing? What would it have looked like? So we made that too. Then we'll make this 98. Let's see. Would that be too much of a block? Maybe I'll make it a 78. Okay. I like this. Good so far. And here's where the fun begins. So we have these edges right here. I can go here to chamfer. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of those edges. So it's these set of 3. Actually, all of them. I should have done it on the previous one, but that's fine. I like it. It's okay. And we're gonna start to add some level of details. By the way, one thing that you're already noticing is that these these things are not tilted. But maybe I might need to edit this stuff. I'm trying out something right now, but we'll see whether I might change the order of operations in a moment. But okay, we got all of our chamfered edges. That's good. And now we're gonna use this command that's called draft. Where are you? Not here, draft. So what is draft? If you've done maybe some machining in the past, or you've been in manufacturing and you want to make a mold for a piece that you want to say inject mold out of, draft is like a little angle that you give say the side of that piece that you want to machine, that you want to inject mold, such that it's easier to remove afterwards. You maybe encountered Lego bricks in the past, and it's very, very difficult to see that Lego bricks are injected molded, but actually they're not fully straight. They have a little slight angled on each one of the sides. And the reason for that is because it's easier to remove. So we here click on draft. Oh my goodness, I just here. And what we're gonna do is pull direction. I'm gonna select this face. And then we're selecting like face, you can say, all right, I'm gonna select all of these guys right there. And you don't see it yet, but I can. Wait, let me see. Dynamic face change. There we go. Let's see if I click on negative 5. Whether there we go. Okay. Now we're talking business. Let me click OK for a second. So what this is really doing is that it's making these faces go angled. So that this is why maybe I might go back and redo some of this stuff. You see, like really, maybe what I might change is I'm gonna like just edit some of these features. I'm gonna play around with them. Maybe for pull direction, what if I tried this face instead? And now here at 4.5. What would that look like? Because I kind of want this to draft itself from where we are. Let me repeat face draft. Cancel. See what happens if I select all of the faces. Okay. It's interesting. I mean, we can think of this in multiple ways. It could either be like this, or it could actually be the other way around, the way that we are drafting this stuff. Maybe I might just delete. I'm gonna delete this stuff for a second. Let me delete the draft. I'm gonna delete the chamfer too for a second. So I'm gonna delete. There we go. And I'm gonna try the draft from here. Oh, there we go. Now I think we've figured it out. Excellent. Okay. I think I know how this is supposed to be. So we'll have to do it one side at a time. But you see that now it's actually drafting in the correct side. Now the problem about what's going on right here is that yes, so that's looking good. It's just that if we look at a picture of this thing, that is always regular. It's not like it's not in here. What would happen is that that side would end up being a little bit longer than say the side in the bottom. So this is where actually perhaps doing a loft might be something better, which is something that I didn't want to get to yet because it's not the object of today's video. So maybe today I'll take my liberty in doing it this way. So I'll click on OK. Very good. Let me just go here 1 second. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So I'm gonna repeat that draft. So I'll go here to draft and we'll do it in the exact same way. So I've used the parting line one. So I'll go here, parting tool, that edge right here, and then faces. I'll do that. See then how, all right, this is going, like that beam is going straight, but not going straight is that side. Even though I wonder whether I could select, nah, it doesn't. I'll say, okay. Now, however, if I were to go, I want to try one thing. Draft. I want to select again that face, then parting tool in there. No, full direction there. Parting tool. Wait, that line and then face in here. Does it work as well? Oh, actually, it does. The only problem about this approach is that then this face gets deformed. So it doesn't look regular because then if I wanted to apply on the opposite side, it's not gonna look as nice. So I'm not gonna do that approach. I'll just leave like this. I think this is again our version of the type A. So that's fine. So go here again to draft. That face right there. We're doing 5 degrees, but we could have maybe done 10. In fact, let me try 10. What would that look like in a second? face in here. Like we do, I mean, do 10. A bit much. We see here on a picture of the type A. Nah, we'll leave it at 5. It's fine. I mean, that's gonna be fine. Okay. So we got that one. Let's do one more side. At least here, this is just practice to see right what happens if you just play around. And this would be a lot easier to do using Loft than Draft. But that stay tuned for session 4. Not yet now. And faces here. And it is an easy way to add some dimension there. Okay, good. So now, yes, I'm gonna come back to our friend the chamfer, and it's a good time to chamfer all of the edges like that. One, two, three. Very good. And then we're gonna add the detail of the windows and whatnot. And then this figure, once we're done with this shape block, we're gonna multiply by 8 and we're gonna scale it up. So I'll say, okay, good. All right, very good. We got, this is our figure of the type A. Now, the other part that we need to add is that little detail on, well, there's that little corner stuff that we'll add in a second, and then there's like a detail of like a roof that is like angled inwards and it has that detail in there. So for that, what we can do is the following thing. I can go, let me just think for a second what would be an appropriate way to do that, because it's like an angled roof. Let's see, just let me look at a picture of this from the front. There we go. It's like a slight semicircle inwards. Okay, good. So the way that we're gonna do this is by, let's see, let me go to origin. So we got that plane. So we're gonna create a plane that's gonna be, yes, some, let me go here to offset plane from that one. We're gonna offset by 100. Okay, sure, we're gonna leave it there. Now I'm gonna do a sketch on that plane. And I'm gonna project geometry this line. So at least I know with that line, what's the location of that space over there. I'm gonna go here, I'll make that a construction line. Very good. And what I know I want to do is I'm gonna draw a little line that's still gonna be construction. Gonna be like that. And then I'm gonna draw another line. It's gonna go like this. So this is gonna roughly define the area of the semicircle that I'm gonna draw. So that I'll make it something like that. Maybe I think that's too noticeable. So maybe I'll just make that a 2, and I'll make that a 2 as well. And that area, maybe just I might get it to be a little bit shorter, and then I'll have like that little icon in the middle. So I'll make that too. Excellent. Okay. Then maybe I'll draw another line. It's gonna come out like that, and then I want that line and want that and that to be tangent. There we go. Like that I don't care what the dimension is. Excellent. Good. So we got that figure in there. And what else can we add? Well, I'm gonna go here to offset. Sure. We got all of that stuff, and I will make this 2 millimeters. That way it's consistent with the bottom side, and then I'll make it opposite from construction. Then we'll go like that. Good. Sure, and then I'll just come like this. Oh my goodness, I'm just drawing lines that are just construction lines. Like that, boom. And then this stuff like that. Excellent. All right, so maybe since we're here, I can do a quick mirror of, well, select of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but then from here. And I'm gonna complete this area because clearly I think it's just mirroring the action. Just that looks good. Same thing here. Okay. I might change a little bit that plane in a second, but now I'm gonna do actually I'm gonna save this and then I will go to that plane and say edit plane. Where are we? Edit dimension. We got 50. Let's see where that takes us now. Say 60. Well, 60 is fine. Good, that way it's right there. So then I'm gonna edit that sketch. Edit sketch. Boom. And 3D model, extrude. And we're gonna extrude inwards. It doesn't matter because then we're gonna edit some of this stuff. We're gonna go inwards by 5. It doesn't care. I don't care much about that. And I will hide. Uh, hide. There we go. Boom. And now I can add like that kind of coin feature on this stuff that it's kind of hidden. It's like a it's difficult to see. I was trying to find pictures of that stuff right there, that nexus. So again, this is where we take our own creative freedom per se on making this stuff. Okay, to sketch. Maybe I'll go here. And we are gonna first start as always, drawing a line. It goes like that. And then actually I'm gonna draw that like this. Like that. Then I'll select these two. I'll make them equal. And then we're gonna draw a slot. That's what we're gonna start by drawing. Just remember to change the construction to be hey, that's too big. Let me try with another slot. There we go. There we go. Okay. And right there, yeah, we can make that 5. That's good. And that distance, we can make it 8. So what we're gonna start by doing is a little extrusion. In outwards, that's gonna be 0.5. It doesn't need to be that much. And then, so we're gonna make it asymmetric. So 0.5 and then say 5. Sure. There we go. And then we can have something that goes downwards, projected from here. Sketch, sketch, 3D model. Now I'll select this face, so that is already an angled plane. Let me just draw. Here, a line, there goes. Like this, and it could be, this can even be another slot. Actually, I'm gonna take, this is where I might take my creative freedom. And I might do it my own way. I'll draw one line in here. I'll draw another line there. And here I'll draw two slots. And it's time to dimension that stuff. Let's make that 2. Let's make that 2. Let's make the slot be 4. 4 like that. And that stuff could be 10. And let's make this and this be equal. You see, this is really more the decorations part, the decoration step. In fact, in just a second, I'll probably speed this up. That way you don't get bored looking at how I'm adding all of these videos. So probably what I'll do is I'll just extrude this stuff. I'll speed this up and then I'll start speaking again when it's a step where I'm gonna do the linear pattern of this thing. So let me go straight ahead and do that. Alrighty, so we got all the way to this point. Really, I sped up this process because the techniques that we've been using in just designing all of these things are things that we learned in session 1 and session 2. It's just a lot of repetition, a lot of using the patterning tool, the linear pattern to make, just say one of those lines and moving it around, then the chamfer to blend those edges. Honestly, it looks similar, right, to the actual one that we have in there. I would even say that there's like a slight difference in color sometimes, but overall, I'd say that I'm pretty satisfied with this block, right? It's our version of the Taipei 101. So here's the fun step. Because we have this block which has a decent level of detail, we obviously don't have to do this again. What we can do is replicate this stuff. So I'm gonna click here in making a rectangular pattern. But now what I want to do is say whether I can I want to select this entire thing. So I want to do, all right, so it's doing all 120 solids. Let me just see what happens if I go here to that edge. We're gonna click here on 82. and we're gonna say 8. Just give it a second and let it think. This is gonna be quite heavy, I can tell you right away. And then I'm gonna click here on OK. New solid. I could have done it. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking whether I should. Okay, I'll leave it as merged. This is something we haven't played around because generally my approach in other CAD softwares is to say I want to have that block that's a solid and I want to make 8 other ones as well. But I'm not sure whether it's letting me. Yeah, okay. So let's see what happens from here. I click on OK. Let it think for a second, do its magic. It's possible that the software might lag a lot after doing this stuff. In fact, you see it's thinking in here. So let's see. Okay, actually not bad at all. Actually, it's not lagging, which is good. The colors all look great. Um, and that is just a rectangular pattern. I don't have to edit this stuff again. We got all of our 8 layers. Actually, I'm pretty satisfied with. So obviously, when you draw one block, it's something. When you draw all of them, when you have all of them drawn out, it's a different story. So now what I have to do is hide the visibility. For some reason, it just. Let me see if I can delete. Can I? I'm not sure why it's bringing so many work planes. So I just need to hide them all. So that's probably what I'm gonna do in just a second. There we go. I just actually, I was just looking this up for a second. We are here to object visibility. I clicking here where it says user work planes. So I was able to hide all of these work planes that were automatically generated. But okay, so we got our at least type A 101, like the main neck of this stuff, but we're not done. So let me first save this for a second. We have still a little bit more work to do because if we go over to the pictures, we'll see that, well, we have this bottom area in there, but that's actually gonna be our next step right now. And this is gonna be pretty simple to do because essentially what I'm gonna work on right now is on creating, say, a little base or a little rectangle that's gonna represent this area. Then we're gonna taper it downwards the same way that we've done. Then I'm gonna add all of those details. It's just that it's gonna be easier because you don't have this area right there. That's really what took time. Then we're gonna replicate that stuff. So we're gonna start, say, with this point, and then I'll come back once we have to add more details. So let's do this. I'll speed it up because it's a little more of the same stuff. You saw really the important step, which is on making this, this neck in there. It looks. I'm very satisfied, honestly, with the type A in here. So let's do this right now. Well, I realized from here is that if I keep on adding more details in here, this model is gonna crash. Like ideally, I would have liked to replicate, all of those windows in there. So maybe for now, I leave it as a more, I hate to do this, but less granular version of the Taipei 101. At least it was looking nice with the blocks. It's just that now it's just taking a lot of time just to even do a single fillet. So that's why I'll probably leave it like that, even though, yes, I would continue. But at least what I'm gonna work on now is on making the top structure, which is, making a little rectangle, then that, and then an antenna that comes off. And that will be chrome as well. So at least it's slight, not the trade-off that I wanted to do, but well, it's decent enough. So hopefully this one, at least I'll have a model that I can post online and people can download and then play around with. That's the most important part. I want to draw one line in here. You see that how pretty much every single sketch that I do, it's taking a lot of time. I know it's like the rendering really what's making a lot of these troubles, but still. Yeah, so I'll probably speed it up from here. That way you don't have to hear me speak while I go through all of this process. Alrighty, folks. So here you go. This is the our model of the Taipei 101. I think it looks decent. Overall, I think what hindered us in here was the fact that after making the pattern of the main column of the Taipei, adding details on the bottom and on the top became a little bit of a challenge because of how much the model was lagging. But overall, I think I'm pretty satisfied with how this is looking like. I mean, it's recognizable as something that attempts to look like the Taipei 101. Maybe actually, well, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'll show it like this. I'll show it as a rocket. That way I can like zoom in a little bit more. Let's see. That way you can see, there we go, like the details a little bit more. Yes, but I'm actually pretty satisfied with overall how this is, how this turned out. And yes, please feel free to download it, modify it as you will, and well, use these techniques to make your own models that leverage symmetry and patterns. But well, thank you very much as usual, and see you next time on session 4. Bye bye.